Hi everyone! So today we're going to take on pumpkin pie, apple pie, and peach pie from the Legend of Sleepy Hollow series. So pumpkin pie is a Native American food, a type of squash, and recipes for pumpkin pie can be found from as early as the 1600s. Now around 17 to 1800s, there's actually different types of pumpkin pie recipes you might actually come across. So in the 1800s, when Washington Irving wrote Sleepy Hollow, it's possible you still would have found a recipe for pumpkin pie where pumpkin was stuffed with apples, spices, and sugar and then baked whole. But I did come across a recipe in the American Cookery by Amelia Simmons in 1796, and it gives a recipe for pumpkin pudding, and that's like the pumpkin pie that we know today. So there's something about apples that seems to really fascinate me, both the history and just I guess researching the amount of varieties over time. So the apple was actually really important in the New World. So when people moved over to the US from England, they actually established a lot of orchards all across the east coast of the US. Mostly these apples were actually made for making hard cider, which was like the popular drink in colonial America. Because of this, you're actually going to find that some of the orchards were first planted, I think in Massachusetts in the 1600s, and they were actually grown from seeds that were brought over from England. Now in the time of Washington Irving, there's three main apples I came across that would have been found. They were the Roxbury Russet, the Newtown Pippin, and the Rhode Island Greening. Now the Rhode Island Greening is probably the one that they most likely would have used for cooking, and we probably would find the Granny Smith is slightly similar, so it's probably the one in nowadays we will want to use for our apple pies. Fortunately, by the time Washington Irving got to have his apple pies, they were using sugar in their baking. You know, back in like the 1300s, which is how old some of the apple pie recipes are, you'll actually find that pastry was just used as almost like a dish. It wasn't really eaten, it just held the apples for the baking, and no sugar was used. So by the time you hit the 17 and 1800s, fortunately you're getting more sugars and spices and something more along the lines that we would be happy to eat today. So for all your pies, it's entirely up to you whether you make your pie crust from scratch or just buy some store-bought stuff just to save you some time, especially if you're prepping for a party and you are running out of time. So to make this, we are going to grab 1.5 cups of pumpkin puree. You're going to pop that into a mixer with 3/4 of a cup of cream, 3/4 of a cup of milk, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 2 eggs, 2.5 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice, half a teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of melted butter. Going to give that all a mix together, then you're going to pour that into your pie crust. You're going to pop that into a preheated oven that's at 450 degrees Fahrenheit or 230 degrees Celsius. Because it's preheated, once that pie goes in, you're going to want to reduce your heat down to 325 degrees Fahrenheit or 160 degrees Celsius, and you're going to let that bake for 50 minutes. You're going to know your pumpkin pie is done because a knife inserted in the middle will come out clean when it's finished. So to make our apple pie, we are going to grab 8 Granny Smith apples. We're going to peel, core, and slice them. So you're going to grab those slices and place those into a pie shell. Then we're going to sprinkle a layer of sugar on top. In total, we're going to have 3/4 of a cup of sugar, but on this layer, you might not use all of it. Then you're going to sprinkle a handful of currants. Then you're going to repeat the layering of apples, sugar, and currants until they're all used up. You're going to pour the juice of 1 orange over those apples, and then you're going to dab dots of butter all over those apples. And I end up using about 1/4 cup of butter, or about 55 grams of butter. So to finish, we're going to top the pie with some lattice or strips of dough, or you can even do a solid pie crust, but you will want to pop a hole in the middle just for some ventilation. You're going to pop that into the oven at 230 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes. Then you're going to reduce the heat to 175 degrees Celsius and continue baking for 45 minutes. In Fahrenheit, that's 450 Fahrenheit down to 350 Fahrenheit. Now for the peach pie, I know there's a reason I made sour cream peach pie, but I actually can't remember and I didn't keep track of my notes for this recipe. But I promise it's really good, and it would have been based on some Dutch cooking recipe that I came across. So to make the sour cream peach pie, we are going to preheat our oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 205 degrees Celsius. In a pie shell, we are going to spread out a can of peaches. I used 825 gram can, and you are going to want to drain that juice. Then you're going to sprinkle a half a cup of brown sugar, a pinch of salt, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and you're going to sprinkle that on top of the peaches. Then you're gonna pour 1.5 cups of sour cream over those peaches, and you're just gonna smooth that so that's completely covered. Just a little note, if the sour cream is firm, that's okay. You're just gonna pop that container into the microwave for 10, maybe 20 seconds, just to soften before you place that onto the peaches, just to make it easier to smooth. You're gonna pop that pie in the oven and you're gonna bake for 25 minutes until the cream has started to turn a golden brown color. So there you go. There are 3 pies all in one hit, all super simple to make, that will be perfect for your Legend of Sleepy Hollow dinner party. I hope you're looking forward to more Sleepy Hollow recipes because there are more coming up. So I will see you guys in the next video.